Somewhere in a towering pile of classics are stories that started wars, stories that changed cultures, stories that invented half the tropes that we're still obsessing over today. And I've asked you guys what are some of your all-time favorites, and so today it's time to read them. Hi, my name is Beth, and welcome to my very unacademic vlog deep dive of me reading the classics. We're just gonna do one classic in today's episode, and that, my friends, is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Now, I don't have a PhD, I don't even own a tweed jacket, but I am a modern reader with a highlighter and some strong opinions. So welcome to my new series, Beth Goes Classic, Beth Reads the Classic, So Classic. I don't know what the title is yet, but welcome to my new series where we read one classic per episode, minimum spoilers and maximum appreciation for some very dramatic authors who most definitely needed some therapy. Let's begin. Okay, hello, good morning, sunshines. Today we are diving into Pride and Prejudice. It is Friday the 13th of February, the day before Valentine's Day, and I thought how appropriate it would be to let this book be my Valentine's Day read, because I hear it is quite the romance, okay? And other things too with it. It's not just a romance, I am very well aware, but you get it. Also, how'd you like my I don't know, I was trying to like be very professional in the intro, but it's fine. It is what it is. I'll probably edit it down to like 30-second clip. I digress. We're reading this. I'm really excited about it. And while you're here, go ahead and leave in the comments what classic you think Beth should read next. Let's back up for a minute though, okay? So I will say this, outside of school, okay, any classic or book of like that I read in school, we're not counting those, okay? I went to school a long time ago. I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything except for x is equal to opposite b plus or minus the square root of c squared minus 4ab all over 2a. I think that's the only thing that I remember from school. So have I used it once in my life? Absolutely not. But I will say, like, I read The Diary of Anne Frank, a couple of like Romeo and Juliet. I don't even know what I read in high school. So we're just starting from scratch, okay? So as an adult, the only classics Beth has read is Wuthering Heights, which I have a vlog of me reading that one. The Outsiders, I think that's more of like a modern classic, but I still read it. And I also think that I have a vlog of reading that one. And I don't think I've read anything else that I would consider a classic. I don't think I have. The Hobbit, that's also like a modern classic. I read that. There's no vlog, but maybe one day. Anyway, so we're starting fresh here with Pride and Prejudice. So now that you know what I've read, you have a plethora, I mean thousands of books to choose from. So let me know in the comments below what we should do next, okay? I'm thinking Count of Monte Cristo. That's what I'm thinking. Or Little Women. I really want to read Little Women. Those are like the two heavy on my noggin right now. Sense and Sensibility also as well, so hello. Anyway, today we're diving into Pride and Prejudice. And I don't know much about this book. Actually, the other day when I was prepping to film like my classic book bucket list, which was my last video that I uploaded, I believe that was the very first time that I discovered what our main girly pop's name is in this book. I have avoided spoilers like the plague, okay? I have not watched a singular adaptation of this unless it's like a retelling that I didn't know was a retelling. You know how Clueless is the retelling of a classic, She's the Man is the retelling of, I think, like a William Shakespeare play. But like going into them, if you didn't know, you know, the contents inside of the, like the original material, you probably wouldn't have caught on. So if I had accidentally watched a retelling, I don't know it. But I have not watched anything that says Pride and Prejudice in the title. Not read the book. I don't know what we're going to get. I do know it is like these two people, they meet, they don't like each other right off the bat, and then I think they wind up falling for each other, okay? It is about pride. It's about misunderstanding people. It is about, we're gonna find out because I'm reading it today. So I don't have any plans today. What do I have planned? I don't have plans today. I don't. I might make some brownies later for my kiddos from a box, okay? I might go to Sonic and get me some mozzarella cheese sticks because that sounds delicious. And I also have a package coming in today, and it's not book related, but I'm gonna show it to you anyway. Actually, I think it might be Jane Austen. Not related, but if Jane Austen were to be alive today, I think she probably would also be having the same type of mail come in. So we'll talk about that when it comes in later today. But yeah, here we go. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I'm so excited. Like, I have been putting this book off for many, I actually have, so I bought, okay. I bought this edition. This is like the Penguin Classic, just your classic black spines, I think is what they're called, not really sure. But I really want to collect these editions so that I can use these editions to annotate in, you know, read with a pen. Right? I do have another edition. I've owned this edition, I kid you not, since I was in my early 20s, so over a decade ago, because Beth's in her mid 30s. I don't want to talk about it. You don't need to know my, I was gonna say my year of birth. You don't need to know my age, okay? That's how long I've had this book. That's how long this book has been physically on my TBR, and that's how long I have put off reading it. And why? This is the thing. Why I put off reading books like this is because I'm so intimidated by the love that I see other people have for these books, okay? There are people out there that have tattoos, you know, from these books, quotes and such. There are people out there that can quote these books probably in entirety. There are people out there that have read these books countless of times. They just have like a deep, soul-crushing love for these books. And that intimidates me like no other, because I'm like, is my soul ready yet? Am I ready for this? Am I in the mood so that I can too encompass the love? I don't know. Am I making any sense? I don't know, but I'm going to find a pen, find a highlighter, find a beverage, and probably a cozy spot on my couch, and we're gonna get started. Okay, so I am not far into the book. I am like 30 pages into the book. It's taken me a lot longer to read because I am reading it a lot slower so that I can annotate, make notes, analyze, highlight, tab, all that stuff. So I'll read a chapter fully through without stopping, which the chapters are not very long, and then I'll go back and reread the chapter while taking my notes and stuff, which does take a lot longer time. And when I say taking notes, babe, I'm taking notes, okay? We are writing things down. We are highlighting. We are underlining. We are taking notes, my friend. And the thing is I'm not just taking these notes to be aesthetic or whatever. I'm taking, which my handwriting looks absolutely atrocious, okay? And on these pages in this book, I have discovered, I don't know if it's with every Penguin Classic book, but once them tabs be put down, good luck picking them back up because they ripping the paper. But annotating and stuff, I'm not just doing it for aesthetics. It's helping me, one, like soak up the story and like actually be in the story, because I'm reading the chapter and then I'm reading the chapter again for these annotations. So it's like helping that, but it's also helping me have notes for the book club discussion, because this is a book club pick for my book club called The Reader's Cut for the month of February. And so in our live deep discussion, I can just whip it out, you know, open up to the blue tab, which is the Mr. Darcy tab, whatever. But it's also me having a conversation with the author. It's me having a conversation with my future self for when I go back and reread this book, and I can see all the things that I put in here. It'll also be very interesting once I get further into the story to see the things that I mentioned at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like at first, like as of right now, again, I'm only like 28 pages in, not really liking Mr. Bennet. I feel like he is very manipulative in the sense that he lied about going to talk to Mr. Bingsley, whatever, and made his wife assume that he wasn't interested, get her all riled up and upset about it, just to be like, I did go and talk to him actually. So I don't think I really like him, you know what I'm saying? But then you also, where was I going with all of this? Oh, anyway, my thoughts might change later on in the book, but it'll be nice to, like, when I go back and I reread, to like see what I thought as I was reading this for the first time. I don't know. I don't know why I feel like I have to sit here and defend myself for annotating in my book. Because I feel like people are like, no, never. It's fine. It is completely fine. But so far, I am really liking it. I'm not very far into it. I can see some themes popping through, like how marriage is kind of treated like a market. And then, you know, it's like these people, they have money, they have this. It's very important. Dancing is very important in this, you know, world, in this time period, in this world, like it's a fantasy book or some shit. And then also, where was I going with that? Marriage is treated like, I don't know, very transactional, I feel like, very market-like. And these women, like it's on, maybe not Elizabeth, so hang on, maybe not Elizabeth's mind, but Charlotte's mind, marriage comes first. They're like, let's get married first and then we'll fall in love later. Versus Elizabeth, she needs like connection first and then love later. Or she need, you know what I mean? Like she looks at it a little differently, and I love that for her. Also, while I'm reading this, it's so interesting that Jane Austen named one of the prominent characters in here Jane. Interesting. Anyway, I wish I could just go through this and just tell you, you know, like the moment that Darcy actually fully says Elizabeth's name out loud, because he says it to somebody else, not really Elizabeth, and that kind of like signifies like a turning point, like he's really interested in Elizabeth when he wasn't at first. And also you can see like Elizabeth, because he kind of turned Elizabeth down at first, he actually kind of called her ugly, kind of low-key, where she could hear it, okay? And she got pride herself too. And so like being around her, he starts to like kind of fall for her a little bit. Like he notices her eyes at first, and then he notices her silliness and whatever, which is kind of like personality attraction. And then he like wants to ask for her hand or whatever, and she's like, think not. But because she's full of pride herself, but she even says like she could forgive his pride because of her pride, whatever. I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to like get more into the story. I think maybe my like reading will pick up and I'll go a little faster the further I get into the story. We'll see. There are still some words in here that are like, maybe I should get a PhD, you know? Maybe I need to pull up dictionary.com. It's fine. Okay, so Jane is now sick, right? So she got invited to go have like a meal out with Bingley's sisters or whatever, you know, like the little stuck-up snobs. Anyway, so she accepts this, and her mother's like, well, she wants to take the carriage, and her mother's like, nay, you taking a horse, because her mother's plotting. Her mother wants her to get sick because her mother knows that it's fixing to rain. And so Jane's like, I guess I want to take the horse. Well, anyways, Jane gets there to Netherfield, and guess what? Jane is sick. Because as soon as she set off, it started pouring down raining. Now, mind you, it's weird times because it rains here often, and being out in the rain don't make us sick, but I wasn't here in the late, was this late 1700s or early 1800s? I don't even know. Anyway, fast forward a little bit. So she's sick and she's there. And this is what her daddy says after she sends a letter. But mind you, they're 3 miles apart. 3 miles, okay? She sends a letter back to her house to let her parents know what the hell is going on, okay? And this is what her dad says. And mind you, again, don't really like her dad. So her dad says, if your daughter should have a dangerous fit of illness, if she should die, it would be a comfort to know that it was all in pursuit of Mr. Bingley and under your orders. Talking to his wife. I feel like first, and also he just makes rude remarks about his daughters, and he's very sarcastic, but in like a turn off kind of way. Like, you know, like you meet some people that are like overly sarcastic, it's actually kind of annoying. That's him. Okay, I thought I would show you what I ordered. It came in the mail today, and kind of talk with you of how it relates to Jane Austen. And like, it's a reach, okay? But last night I was laying in bed and I was like, wait a minute, did Jane Austen cross stitch? So of course I put it into Google. Yes, I'm about to show you some cross stitching stuff, but listen to this story first. So I put it into Google, and Google was like, most likely she did, because she was born in the late 1700s and passed away in the early 1800s. And that is like when you know, girls were in their prime stitching up some samplers, more specifically young girls, because they would do it at school to learn alphabet and to learn numbers, and also just to kind of learn to stitch in general so that they could mend clothes and they can put initials on clothes to keep inventory and things like that, and also to show like eligible bachelors like, this is what I could do. But cross-stitching was a thing. It came way before that late 1700s, way before Jane Austen was even thought about. And of course it continued on after her. But during like the years that she was alive, it was definitely a thing that girls did. And so I was like, okay, cool. And it also mentioned that she mentions stitching in a few of her works. Now I'm only, you know, on chapter 8 of Pride and Prejudice. I haven't came across anything to do with stitching, but trust me if I see it. All that to say, just now here in this moment, I was unwrapping the patterns that I have, and I was like, wait a minute, is there a sampler out there that Miss Jane Austen stitched herself? And little to my surprise, anyway, to my surprise, there's a sampler that has the name Jane Austen stitched into it. However, because the date says 1797, Jane would have been 22 at the time. Some historians think that it wasn't stitched by the author Jane Austen. They think it may have been like a cousin or something. But some historians think that it could have been Jane Austen, as some older women still continued to stitch. Also, back then, some women, for the sake of vanity, would pluck out numbers or years from their samplers to either like just pluck the years out completely, or they would tweak it, or they would like restitch it or something to fake, you know, the date to make them younger. So that could have very well been a thing, because this person here mentions how the 9 looks like it could possibly have been an 8, and if it was an 8, it would definitely be a Jane Austen thing, because she would have been 12 at the time and not 22. But let me show you what it is. And it's only been viewed by the public one time, and I want to say it was like back in 2012. They put it out for the public's viewing, and then it's been put back up reserved somewhere since then. But this is what that looks like, and I thought that was so interesting. I wonder if there's an actual reproduction pattern that I could buy that I could restitch, because that would be really cool. And then as I was browsing this whole website, article, post, whatever, it also shows her sister's sampler, and this one is in fact her sister's because it has middle name and everything included. And this was her sister's sampler. So Jane had an older sister, and that was her sampler. How cool is that? How cool. That's so cool. So cool. Anyway, so what I have to show you today are some reproduction samplers. And so essentially reproduction samplers that these designers like got their hands on old samplers that were stitched back in the 1800s, 1700s, even early 1900s. And what they do is they design them into a program or whatever to make patterns so that you can then stitch them now. And it gives like a very, I mean, you can have like cozy cottage primitive vibes from some pieces, and so like elegant French samplers for other pieces, and it's a vibe, okay? So the first two that I got, I ordered from a company called Hobby House Needleworks. It's an online store. There might be like an in-person store, I'm not too sure. But these two were from Hands Across the Sea Designs. That's the company that makes these, and Nicola is the designer, and these two were exclusive to that store. So the first one I actually have already started this one. However, I'm using somebody else's pattern and not my own, and because it's going to take me many years to complete, I think, because of how dense for a sampler it is. I was like, let me just go ahead and get my hands on a copy of this pattern before it's no longer there, because I believe these are both limited edition and exclusive to that store. So the first one is called Martha Walmsley 1847. Now this one, I personally would assume that this was stitched by an adult woman because of the detail and how stunning it is. And there is no, like, I mean, there is a date on here, but I don't know. But look how stunning that is. Ugh, the florals, that's what gets me. I will be recharting the words. I'm going to put, I don't know if I'm going to put a name at all down there, but I am going to put something different where these words are. The one says, the Lord is good and his mercy endureth forever. The Lord is good could stay there, but I think I might change I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. I think I am going to rechart that. And I'm going to just exclude. I'm just not going to put the name, but stunning. So I got that. Then the other one is called Catherine's Garden. This is a Dutch sampler, and I got this because I was like, this would be really cute. And like a bright frame, because the colors is what really drove me to. This is done by a 12-year-old girl. Okay, I could never. Beth, that 12-year-old, probably couldn't even draw a stick figure house. You know what I mean? This is, wow. Whole, like, you have someone reading a book here, and then you have someone looks like petting a cow or something here. But, ugh, I just love the color. And that border, I love it. It's very, like, hippie vibes. Even though this was done in, like, the 1800s, 1885. So there's that one. Then, I am part of a Facebook group on Facebook called Homespun Needlework or something like that, and occasionally they will put out exclusive patterns, or kits rather, that you can order, but you only can order them if you're part of that Facebook group. So it came in today as well, and it came with this little thank you card. How cute is it? I have to hide my head so it'll cute. And it's a whole kit. So this is the pattern. This is what the original pattern looked like. So this is the originally stitched pattern, and the designer took that and created this. You see what I'm saying when I say reproduction sampler? I love this. Now some bits are still crooked because, like, hello, a little girl stitched this, like, let's be real. So when I stitch this up, I will kind of like tweak it, like this needs to be scooted over a little bit, whatever. I am going to take this out and put my daughter's information there, and I'm most likely going to, yeah, I'm 100% going to rechart that to something else that relates to my daughter. And of course that came with some fabric, 36 count. This is called Valley Forge by Needle and Flax, 36 count, cute. And then it also came with the overdyed cottons. Oh, look at the color palette. Stunning, beautiful, delicious. And it came with a tray. And let me see if I can put this together. I think it's like fake leather, I don't know. Tray. Sorry, my kids are home. And it says in the middle, at the top, it says Homespun Needleworks, and then you have the motif, and then 2026 down there. It's beautiful, but what do you use this for? I mean, I could use it. I have like a hutch thing. Mine is kind of bent a little. It'll be fine. I have a hutch thing that I could possibly sit this on and maybe stick some stuff in it. I don't know. I'm not a designer, but it's cute. If my mama would have had her hands on this back in the 90s, you know what she would have been using this for. These two sisters are starting to tick me off because they're just so rude. I don't know if it's because they feel like they're competition for Elizabeth. I don't know what it is, but it's like they're constantly criticizing her, and not just her looks. Like, they're criticizing her looks, like with her hair and her clothes and whatever, because she walked 500 miles through the mud to get to her sister. But now they're starting to criticize her independence. You know, like, she walked here alone through those miles. Who does she think she is? But being fake about it, because in front of Elizabeth's face, they act really polite, to the point where it was starting to change Elizabeth's perspective on these two sisters. But thankfully, Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy disagree with them. So this is one of the sisters talking to Mr. Darcy. It says, "I am afraid, Mr. Darcy," observed Miss Bingley in a half whisper, "that this adventure has rather affected your admiration of her fine eyes." And he says, "Not at all. They were brightened by the exercise." He's like, would you shut the fuck up? Definitely flirt coded that line. I'm gonna underline it. So earlier they were talking about kind of like the perfect woman, I guess you would say. And essentially, Mr. Darcy has high standards, okay? And then him and little Miss Elizabeth go tit for tat for a minute. She's teasing, but also testing him. And then he says, I never saw such a woman. First off, you could tell that he likes minds over performance, which is why he is attracted to Elizabeth, right? She has the mind. Anyway, and then he says, I never saw such a woman. And so he hasn't met his standard yet. So then Elizabeth leaves the room. And it says, Elizabeth Bennet, said Miss Bingley when the door was closed on her, which essentially means talking behind Elizabeth's back, is one of those young ladies who seek to recommend themselves to the other sex, but undervaluing their own. What is that, my friends? Sounds like projecting to me. Sounds like a bit of jealous rage. Kind of shows you how during these times, well, women were kind of expected to perform modesty, essentially. It's all a performance. I love that Elizabeth doesn't even give a fuck. She's like, I don't care about your saucy, backstabby, whatever. I care about my sister. And that's that. Absolutely, girl. Absolutely. Good morning, sunshines. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday. When I tell you, we haven't spoken since Friday. It's Wednesday. It was a 3-day weekend. My family's loud. So reading a book like Pride and Prejudice and also vlogging about it whilst everybody's home, you know, it's Wednesday. I had to play catch up yesterday. And then today, I feel like I can't even speak loudly because there's a man, that's my husband, there's a man outside fixing our irrigation system. Is that what it's called? After like the freeze thing happened here in Texas, some of the sprinklers in my yard doesn't work anymore. And so he's here doing that. And my husband keeps ignoring my text messages and I don't know anything about anything. And this man is asking me, what station are these waterheads linked to? And I'm like, what is a waterhead and a station? I didn't even know there was stations. So that's him getting back with me on that. Anyway, I haven't read a singular word of Pride and Prejudice since we last spoke, so you've missed nothing. We're gonna get into it today though. I did in fact read a book over the weekend though. I don't have, hang on. So I wound up reading King Sorrow this weekend, and the reason why we didn't pick things back up yesterday was one, I needed to catch up on house things from the 3-day weekend, but also I had like 100-ish pages left to read in this and I really needed to know what was happening with that ending. Okay, so this is my little 5-star plug for King Sorrow by Joe Hill, but it is done. Okay, we've cried our tears, we've sat with it, and we're moving on to Pride and Prejudice. We're moving back to, okay. Anyway, Pride and Prejudice. I am kind of on a deadline now because we have our like buddy watch this Friday with the book club, and it's Wednesday. And I've barely made a dent into this book, so I don't want to spoil myself by watching the movie before finishing the book. So I need to finish the book, and then of course Saturday we have the discussion here on my channel, so I really need to get this thing done. Goal is Friday by like 6 p.m. I think we're starting the buddy watch at set. Anyway, I also thought maybe I should pull an all-nighter, you know what I mean? Get her done. I doubt that'll happen, but we'll see. Okay, so I have to update you on the sprinkler situation because I done told you about it. So you're probably gonna, I'm not gonna leave it, I'm not gonna, leave a plot hole. Anyway, the guy came to fix, all of the sprinkler heads on the right side of the house were not working, that like water our yard. Okay, so the guy came to fix it and he checked everything, and then he comes to the door and he knocks and he's like, so I need to show you something in the backyard. So I go in the backyard with him, and he shows me all the wires to the sprinkler heads on the right side of our house have been, he said, it looks like forcefully ripped out of the system, as in somebody did it intentionally. He said he doesn't see any other scenario as to how it could have happened. And he said he wonders if our neighbors are tired of us watering their lawn and came into our backyard to rip the cords out. That is crazy. Because at first when he said it looked like somebody intentionally ripped the wires out, my first thought was, did somebody come in our backyard to take copper wires? Because that's like, when you think of that, I think of like, because I hear stories of like people taking copper wire out of houses. I don't know where copper wire is. And he's like, no, that's not, those are not copper wires, and nothing was taken. The cords are still there. They're just, they've been ripped out. So I guess we need to get a better security system for the backyard. Had she found Jane in any apparent danger, Mrs. Bennet would have been very miserable, but being satisfied on seeing that her illness was not alarming, she had no wish of her recovering immediately. Miss Bennet! You desperate little girl. Okay, I was a bit confused for a second. So the two sisters are not both being called Miss Bingley. Miss Bingley is single and she wants to marry Mr. Darcy herself, which is obviously the reason why she keeps trying to get Darcy to like not like Elizabeth, and that's why she like mocks the whole fine eyes situation. The other sister is Mrs. Hurst, and she's married, and so she's just like there and being uppity, nose in the air, kind of, you know. But it's Charlotte who's the villain of this story. I found the first mention, chapter 10 of needlework. It says, Elizabeth took up some needlework. She was definitely stitching on a sampler. So this Mr. Collins person, I don't like. I can already tell you I don't like him. So he comes to town. First off, because of an entail, none of Mr. Bennet's daughters will inherit the house, the property that they have, because they're all women. Go figure. And so Mr. Collins is like his cousin or something like that, and he automatically gets to inherit the house, right, through lineage that way or whatever. But he's like, let me come to town so that I can marry one of your daughters, so it could be like, you know, better that way. Or I don't know. I mean, like, I get it. He is Mr. Bennet's like distant cousin, but that's cringy, you know, like, let me go marry my cousin. And just, it's gross. I don't like him. And then he was already walking around looking at their furniture and stuff inside the house as if it's already his. Like, I feel like I'm probably gonna learn more, I guess, as I read the story, but he's acting as if immediately, if he is to marry one of these girls, the house is automatically his. So where does Mrs. Bennet go? Do they just become like roomies, or like what happens? Because in real life, in this day and age, if you know, leave something to your offspring or a relative or whatever, typically you don't get it until the person croaks over. You know, sometimes people say like, oh, I was so born in the wrong decade. I should have been born back then. They have better music and better style and blah, blah, blah. No way I would survive back in this day and age, because let me tell you what, one, no central air. Couldn't do it. And two, you know, you already know where I'm going with this. Same location, different hour. It's like 5:30 p.m. I done left the house, went and got food, went and got my kids, came back home, did homework. Now I'm coming in here to talk to you about Pride and Prejudice. I am still not very far. What I'm gonna have to do is slow down on, like, I am fully annotating, okay? Every page. I'm gonna have to just chill with the annotations, finish the book. Okay, I will underline really important things, and then when I'm going back to write my notes for the live, I will then continue my deep dive annotating. Anyway, I digress. Where I was getting at with this story is we have been introduced to yet another character, Mr. Wickham. Mr. Wickham knows Mr. Darcy, okay? Because first off, the very first time Mr. Wickham comes on the scene, he turns heads, okay? Not just one person's head. The entire street is like looking at him. So he gotta be looking kind of good, you know what I'm saying? And then he sees Mr. Darcy, and it says in here, one of them turns red while the other one turns white. So to me, it feels like one of them is pissed off that the other one is there, and the other one's white because he's like, oh fuck. But we don't know who turned red and who turned white, and Elizabeth herself saw it, and she's curious as to what the heck is going on, right? Mr. Wickham shows up at their house, at Elizabeth's house, and Elizabeth gets to talking to him, and he automatically off the bat just starts talking shit on Mr. Darcy. So Elizabeth was already kind of like standoffish, a little bit judgmental, if you will, because Mr. Darcy, you know, he has a reputation of being an asshole. Like, I don't even know if you would even consider it being an, well, but Mr. Wickham is like complete opposite. He's like, oh, pity me, pity me. And then he will like degrade Mr. Darcy, and then he will like kind of compliment him a little bit just to make him not look so bad, you know, because liars, when they constantly criticize someone, makes them look bitter, you know what I mean? And I say that because I have a very strong feeling Mr. Wickham is talking out of his butthole. Oh no, you know what I mean? Because this isn't a love story about Jane Austen and Mr. Wickham, okay? This isn't a love story about Jane Austen at all. This is a love story between Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. I don't know what fully is going on just yet because I'm still in the chapter where Mr. Wickham is talking to, I keep wanting to call her Jane Austen, talking to Elizabeth about Mr. Darcy, and he has essentially successfully kind of steered Elizabeth the opposite way now. So I don't trust him, and I don't like him. And also there's this line right here. It says, he's talking about Mr. Darcy. He says he has also brotherly pride, which with some brotherly affection makes him a very kind and careful guardian of his sister. And you will hear him generally cried up as the most attentive and best of brothers. Why would you randomly bring up his sister? Why do you say that he has brotherly pride? I feel like that was just a random little thing cause I don't know, the whole conversation just feels like out of whack. Like he intentionally went there on a mission to make people hate Mr. Darcy. That's why I feel like obviously he's got to be lying. Mr. Darcy cannot be this bad of an individual if, you know, they fall in love. I just can't wait to get to that part. I feel like every time there's supposed to be a ball coming, and I'm like sitting here waiting on this ball to happen, but other things keep happening. Mr. Collins shows up, which also another thing. You know how at the very beginning of the book, it starts off saying like, oh, Elizabeth's not handsome, you know, all of her other sisters are, but she's full of wit and blah, 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 you know what I mean? But it's funny how Mr. Darcy starts falling for her because of her personality, her silliness, her unbotheredness, you know what I mean? And then you have Mr. Collins, and Mr. Collins it really grossed me out, the fact that if Mr. Collins is your daddy cousin, he is also your cousin, okay? Gross. But Mr. Collins is also like wanting to dance with Jane and whatnot. Not Jane, god damn it, it's not Jane Austen, Beth. It's Elizabeth. He's also wanting to dance with Elizabeth and whatnot. And then you have Mr. Darcy, like I said, was like, you know. And then now we have, you know, Mr. Wickham, I feel like is trying to get in bed with Elizabeth. I don't know. If I call this girl Jane Austen one more again. Hi, Editing Beth popping in. I just finished reading volume 1 in this book. It's cut into 3 volumes. And in this vlog, there is a section where I actually say the wrong character's name. And it's because in the beginning, I kept getting the names mixed up. I knew who they were. I just kept mixing up the names. So I have since created a little cheat sheet for myself, and I thought I would discuss it with you. So maybe if you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, this will also help you out in your journey. One should invest in a chalkboard or a marker board or something. A head projector. You remember those? Am I showing my age? Anyway, so we'll start off really quick with the Bennet family, okay? Here's my chart. Come closer so you could see. This way. There you go. So we have the Bennet family. Up here we have Mr. Bennet. He's sarcastic, intelligent father who oftentimes observes family drama from the sidelines. Honestly, I don't really like him. Then we have his wife over here, Mrs. Bennet. Mrs. Bennet, she is their excitable mother, obsessed with marrying off her daughters. It's literally her entire personality, okay? Okay. Then them two, this couple, they have 5 children. The first one, they're all daughters, by the way. The first one, her name is Jane. Jane is the eldest. She is beautiful, she is kind, and she is gentle, okay? We love Jane. And then there's Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the actual heroine of the story. She is clever, she is witty, she is independent, and quick to judge. Oftentimes, a little too quick. Then we have Mary. She is our bookish girl. She is very serious, moralizing, and often she's socially awkward, okay? That's Mary. Kitty. Oh, Kitty, she's a joy. Her real name is Catherine, but bless that she has the name of Kitty because we have two characters in this story with the name Catherine, okay? So Kitty, she is the second to the youngest. She is very easy to influence, and she's usually following Lydia, our youngest, and she definitely has young sibling attitude, okay? She is the youngest, she is bold, she is impulsive, she is flirtatious, and she is reckless. And these two girls, oh, okay. Then we have the Bingley circle. So the Bingley circle, Mr. Bingley is the first bachelor to enter the scene. Very beginning, Mrs. Bennet is really excited because he has come to town and she is ready to marry off one of her daughters, right? So that's Mr. Bingley, aka Charles Bingley. Charles is wealthy, he is friendly, he is cheerful, he is a gentleman, okay? I really like Mr. Bingley and I think he's going to be the perfect person for Jane. Then we have Caroline Bingley. Whew! She is the character that I kept calling Charlotte. She's not Charlotte, but she's oftentimes called Miss Bingley in the book. Her name is Caroline. She's a bitch. I did not put that on my notes though. I was trying to keep it nice, okay? So, she is his snobbish sister, very concerned with social status and much, much more, but whatever. Then we have Mrs. Hurst. That is the two. That's his other sister. Oftentimes you'll hear them refer to Mr. Bingley's sister, okay? The one that is called Miss Bingley, because at first we were introduced to them as Mr. Bingley's sisters. And I don't know if I just overlooked the part where it mentioned that one of them was married already. And so they kept saying Miss Bingley, Miss Bingley. And I was like, wait, which, because there's two sisters. Why are we just saying Miss? Okay. If you two get confused, it's because one of the sisters is married and they refer to her as Mrs. Hurst. And she is literally just his married sister. She's a potato at this point. And then Mr. Hurst, they're made for each other because he is her lazy husband who mostly cares about cards and food. So there you have the Bennet family and then the Bingley circle. Okay, let's keep going because we're going to talk about the Darcy family. And then I put plus because there's a couple extra people here. So Fitzwilliam Darcy is Mr. Darcy, okay? So Fitzwilliam Darcy is wealthy, reserved, proud, but deeply loyal and honorable beneath the surface, okay? Okay. Then we have Georgina Darcy, Georgiana, whatever. We have her. That's Darcy's shy, sweet, younger sister. She's not super prominent in the beginning, but he does talk about her a lot. Maybe not a lot. He writes letters to her and such. And then she's brought up again by other characters. Whatever. Anyway, then we have Colonel Fitzwilliam. This is Darcy's cousin. He is charming and sociable. And then we have Lady Catherine de Bourgh. This is the other Catherine. She is Darcy's aristocratic aunt, controlling and very status conscious. Okay? And then we have Anne de Bourgh, and that is her sickly daughter. So that is the Darcy family, plus a couple extra. Then, lastly, we have this page, which has the Collins household, okay? So we have Mr. Collins, aka the cousin. Still grosses me out to think about, because I don't care how distant you are. We have Mr. Collins. So Mr. Collins is a pompous clergyman and distant cousin who will inherit the Bennet estate. Because back in the back day, if you weren't a male, if you didn't have a male heir, regardless of how many daughters you had, the estate goes to the closest male relative. And I'm assuming that's Mr. Collins. Okay. Then we have Charlotte Lucas. Charlotte is Elizabeth's practical best friend who marries Mr. Collins for security. Then we have Sir William Lucas. This is Charlotte's polite, socially ambitious father. And we have Lady Lucas, who is Charlotte's mother. And then down here, we have the Wickham plotline. This is George Wickham. George is very charming. He is an officer with a complicated past involving Darcy, and he is one. That's all I will say. Anyway, there's my little chart, my little name chart. So hopefully there's no more confusion, okay? So if you see me talking about a bitch named Charlotte, just know I meant Caroline. Charlotte's the best friend. Caroline's the bitch. They all start with a C, I feel like. Elizabeth was the least dear to her of all of her children. She literally admits that Elizabeth is her least favorite child. That's crazy, but then I flipped the page. Not Mr. Collins wanting to ask Elizabeth for her hand in marriage. Not Elizabeth running upstairs. She's like, fuck you, I am out, peace. And her mom's like literally begging her, listen to him, listen to what he has to say. Are you serious right now, girlfriend? She turns down his proposal for marriage, and he says, I am not now to learn, replied Mr. Collins with a formal wave of the hand, that it is usual with young ladies to reject the addresses of the man who they secretly mean to accept when he first applies for their favor, and that sometimes the refusal is repeated a second or even a third time. I am therefore by no means discouraged by what you have just said, and shall hope to lead you to the altar. And he's like, I'll keep asking you, don't worry. She's like, bruh, no is a complete sentence, and I'm not going to change my mind. He also said that as soon as they walk into the place that she was his first choice or whatever, which is false, because he originally had his eyes on Jane, but Miss Bennet was the one that kind of like hinted to him that Jane was, interested in Mr. Bingley, and so then Mr. Collins immediately turned his eyes to Elizabeth. So that was a lie. I don't like Mr. Collins. And obviously this isn't like a love story. Like, we all have heard of Mr. Darcy. So obviously she wasn't going to accept Mr. Collins' proposal. But they literally just met. He probably doesn't even know her birthday. He literally says, option A said no. Pivot. Option B, head over to Charlotte's house. Proposes to Charlotte. Same day? I don't know, damn near. And she says yes. Now, granted, Charlotte's 27 years old, right? And with Mr. Collins, love is nowhere in his equation. But Charlotte, she's 27 years old. And in this time period, that is considered old to not be married, right? She's 27 years old. And she has nothing, and she's not even pretty by society's standards. So she literally is just like, you know what? Bet. So what the fuck? Okay, but wait. It was funny at first, but now it's kind of sad. On the next page, she's talking to Elizabeth because Elizabeth is like, I don't understand this whole situation. And Charlotte's like, I see what you are feeling. You must be surprised, very much surprised. So lately as Mr. Collins was wishing to marry you, but when you have had time to think it all over, I hope you will be satisfied with what I have done. I am not romantic, I never was. I ask only for a comfortable home, and considering Mr. Collins' character, connections, and situation in life, I am convinced that my chance of happiness with him is as fair as most people can boast on entering the marriage state. You're going to scroll down a little bit. And this is Elizabeth saying all of this. She says, Charlotte, the wife of Mr. Collins, was a most humiliating picture, and to the pang of a friend disgracing herself and sunk in her esteem was added to the distressing conviction that this was impossible for that friend to be tolerably happy in the lot she had chosen. I don't know, and now it's really sad. And I get it, women can't really, make money and be successful in this day and age, so they really have to just rely on a man. I say that knowing full and well I rely on mine 100%. No regrets. I'm done with volume 1. I'm also done reading for the night. Essentially, volume 1, it wraps up with, I don't know, I feel like it's like a turning point in the story. We have Charlotte and Elizabeth's friendship is now a little bit rocky. Elizabeth is realizing that not everyone can marry for love, and she wishes, you know, better for her friend Charlotte. We have Mr. Bingley. He and his sisters have left for London, and Miss Bingley wrote a letter to Jane. Jane is upset by this because she thought her and Mr. Bingley were like hitting it off, I guess, and so she's kind of upset about this. And from Caroline's letter, she makes it sound like they don't ever plan on returning, and that Mr. Bingley might be marrying Mr. Darcy's little sister. I personally don't believe that, but whatever. And then also, I think Elizabeth kind of thinks that Mr. Darcy convinced Mr. Bingley to leave to go to London. I guess we'll see. I'm very surprised that Mr. Darcy has hardly had any, like, he's not had any screen time or as much screen page time as I thought he would have. I'm hoping we get to see more of him in volume 2 and volume 3. I was really hoping for there to be a lot of like angst and falling in love, and I don't know, that's what I was hoping for, but so far it's been quite entertaining, to say the least. I am really enjoying this book. I really love Elizabeth. She is by far my favorite character in this book, my little unbothered queen. And then, well, unbothered in a lot of parts where many people would be bothered, like when other people are making fun of her and things like that. But I digress. I am very curious to see if Miss Bennet holds true to her not talking to Elizabeth anymore. Also, Mr. Bennet was like, if you choose not to marry Mr. Collins, your mother will no longer talk to you. But if you do decide to marry Mr. Collins, I will no longer talk to you. Good morning, sunshines. We're diving back into our book today, heading into volume 2, and I'm so excited. I'm ready for Mr. Darcy to get some more page time. I'm ready for Jane to really get to know Mr. Darcy, because I feel like it's like she doesn't really like him at first, and then she starts to kind of like him, and then something happens and she doesn't like him again, and I'm just like, girl, we need to figure it out, okay? We need to figure this out. Also, we need to figure out what's going on with Mr. Bingley. Like, why did he leave? Is he gonna come back for Jane? Because if not, I might be a little pissed about that, okay? Also, I'm ready for like angst. I'm ready for some cute banter. More. Like, we had some banter, but I want banter of them when they're both into it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Okay, anyway, that's what we're gonna do. I have my little reading buddy over there. Yeah. And hello, I got my coffee here. I did stop at the Dollar General on my way home from dropping my kids off at school to get a coffee because the Starbucks is 20 minutes in the other direction. Why do I look like the dude from The Office right now? It's crazy to me how they truly despise Mr. Darcy. It says here, the very last line of chapter 1 in volume 2, but by everybody else, Mr. Darcy was condemned as the worst of men. These women would be shooketh to be here in 2026 to compare, because what, Mr. Darcy doesn't like to dance. He seems a little standoffish because he's not like socially bubbly. Like, are you serious right now? Because this other charming man came to town and already started talking shit on Mr. Darcy, which to me is like a red flag for Wickham. Like, you can't even say hi, hello. It's, let me tell you about Mr. Darcy and how he fucked me over. You know what I mean? Jane done went to London. She didn't just go to London for a day or two, Nene. She's been in London for weeks. She wrote Miss Bingley, aka Caroline, ahead of time to tell her that she's going to London in hopes to see Mr. Bingley. And apparently that letter got lost. Why she didn't just write Mr. Bingley? Is that like against the law back then? I don't know. But anyway, so she's in London this whole time, tiddly-tattling around, waiting to, you know, accidentally bump into Mr. Bingley, I guess. Then finally Caroline visits her and is like, we're not returning. I cannot stand Caroline. I cannot. Which I'm kind of sad because I was really liking Mr. Bingley. You can tell he's such a gentleman and he's nice and he really paid attention to Jane and he cared for her. And because like in different scenes when other people are having conversations, it would mention that Jane and Bingley are over in the corner having a conversation amongst themselves and ignoring everybody else in the room. And so to me, that was like, yes, all eyes were on Jane. He was paying attention to what she was saying. He was nice to her. He let her spend a night at his house for multiple days just from a little cold. Like, imagine. Anyway, can't stand Caroline though. But also, okay, so let's back up a little bit. We go into this book and we hear that Mr. Darcy is the love interest of our main girly pop, Elizabeth, okay? And so like automatically off the bat, I'm searching for his name in the text, Mr. Darcy, where he's at, when he's coming. But we're first introduced to Mr. Bingley. So bachelor number one. And eventually he's like, you know, Jane's man. And so, you know, now we're just trying to focus on Mr. Darcy, but nay, here comes another bachelor, Mr. Collins. And then we have another man coming, Mr. Wickham. And so you're just like, and all the while, these other men are just getting all of this page time, and Mr. Darcy keeps getting shooed to the side. When is my man coming to the front? Okay? But then finally, we got rid of Mr. Collins because Mr. Collins tried to propose to Elizabeth, and she's like, nay, not having that. Because they say incest is the best, but I am not putting my cousin to the test. So anyway, Mr. Collins is gone. He's done gone to marry Charlotte. You know, congrats to them. Then we have Mr. Wickham here. Okay, and Mr. Wickham automatically comes into the show and he's just talking shit on Mr. Darcy, makes that his whole entire personality. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just like, but now she's talking to somebody else. I believe it's her aunt because it's her dad's brother or something and his wife. So I believe it's Elizabeth's aunt that she's talking to. And Elizabeth's aunt tells Elizabeth, girl, do not marry Mr. Wickham. Do not. First off, he ain't got no money. You ain't got no money. That is not a match made in heaven, because in this world, it's all about the money, okay? You need at least $5,000. So he ain't got no money. You ain't got no money. It ain't going to be a good match. I'm going to tell you that right now. It ain't going to be a good match. And so I believe somebody heard that he actually has his eyes on another woman who has money, and she can give him $10,000 if they get married. So maybe that's going to take Mr. Wickham off the plate. So that's bing, bam, boom, pow. All that's left is Mr. Darcy. Come to the front, boo. Come to the front, because I need to know more about Mr. Darcy, because as of right now, we don't know anything, okay? And the thing is I feel like they say he's full of pride and whatnot, but also at the same time, when he gets accused of things, he doesn't right off the bat be like, oh, wasn't me. He just kind of like lets them think what they want to think. You know what I mean? Like he couldn't be bothered. He could not be bothered. But anyway, so go on, take Mr. Wickham. Get him out of here, because I feel like he's a liar too. So Catherine thinks that Darcy is in love with Elizabeth. So earlier on, like a chapter or two ago, Elizabeth is at Charlotte's house with Mr. Collins, and Darcy and Colonel Fitzwilliam show up. And Catherine tells Elizabeth, like, they must be visiting because you're here. Otherwise, they wouldn't really visit. And that's not the only time they visit either. And you could tell that Darcy, like, he still wants to be around her. He butts into conversations that she's in, or she's over there playing the piano. And he actually leaves mid-conversation to go stand by the piano to be in her presence, okay? Then fast forward a little bit, it's been like a couple days, and he shows up again, and he goes in there to sit with Elizabeth, and they sit in silence. They don't even have conversation at first, and then they do get into conversation. And then Charlotte says that she thinks Darcy is in love with Elizabeth because he keeps showing up while she's there. And then they like kind of brush it off and they're like, no, he's only here because he's bored. Big girl, please. He is smitten. I just wish Elizabeth would also be, but this is hate to love, right? Hate to love. I knew it. He got it bad. After a silence of several minutes, he came toward her in an agitated manner and thus began, in vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. We're not even halfway into this book. I feel like Elizabeth still does not like him. And we already know Elizabeth. Elizabeth is headstrong about feeling for someone before like marriage and stuff. I feel like she's not gonna take, she's probably gonna be like, get the fuck out. Literally, he was just like, girl, I think I love you. He got it bad. When he's on the phone, hang up and he calls right back. But listen, and she's like, Danae, don't you come around here with all that. Don't you come around here with all that. You know, like the whole thing with Wickham, she just 100% took what Wickham had to say and ran with it. She didn't even want to know Darcy's side. Even though talking to other people, some of them kind of like tried to tell her that maybe there's something else there. You know, maybe you're not getting the full story. But she's just kind of going with that. And she's like, he don't like to dance when people have parties. That ain't my vibe. When the beat gets hot, we gonna drop it like it's hot. Like this is not what's gonna happen. So don't come in here with your love. And then he's all, forgive me for having taken up so much of your time and accept my best wishes for your health and happiness. And he leaves. I don't know, I'm kind of agitated. I'm very curious to see how Elizabeth's opinion changes over time because obviously it's got to. Like, what does he do? This is a beautiful angle for my double. I gotta go. So that letter from Mr. Darcy was definitely something that I feel kind of changed the direction that this book was going, like the turning point, I guess you would say. Could it also be the beginning of Elizabeth's growth arc? I feel like if the letter had not happened and he would have tried to explain the things to Elizabeth in the heat of the moment during the previous conversation, she would have steamrolled his ass. She wouldn't have not let him get a sentence out. I could already tell you that much. And so I feel like him letting her cool off and giving her space and returning later on with a letter for her to read was the move, okay? And also, fuck you, Mr. Wickham. Okay, you guys, let's talk about my thoughts thus far as I have reached the end of volume 2 and I'm heading into volume 3. I just got out the shower. I am moisturized up. I'm in my jams. We're finishing this book tonight, okay? Because I am in it. I am ready to find out what's going on, what's happening. Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about volume 2 and slash my thoughts thus far. My thoughts on Mr. Darcy has shifted a little bit. I think I talked about this earlier while I was in my kitchen. I don't remember, but during the whole, like, you know, declaration, if you will, and then the walking out and then the letter, I feel like it really, one, showed us who ultimately Mr. Darcy is. And it also showed us that he has respect for Elizabeth, I feel, because, you know, he let her talk. He didn't interrupt. He didn't correct. He didn't yell. He didn't slam things. He let her talk, let her finish her sentences, and he just, like, let her, you know, and he was like, well, I apologize. I hope you have good health and a good day. And he left, and he let her simmer, and he let her breathe, and then he gives her a letter. And then in this letter, you finally get to know more about what's going on in his head, because the whole first, I mean, the book, we have we know a lot about Elizabeth. Like, Elizabeth is our main character. We don't know much about Darcy. We just know everybody is jumping to these really harsh conclusions about him over what? Not wanting to dance, you know what I mean? Or like coming off as bitchy. And honestly, I get that a lot about me. And I personally don't think I'm a bitch, but the amount of people that have told me when they first meet me, they think I'm a bitch, but it's because I have social anxiety. It's because I'm not a good conversationist. It's because I overthink everything, and then I talk myself up a tree, and then I don't know how to get down. And so a lot of the times it keeps me from talking. I kid you not. You can ask people in my personal life. Even like, I don't know, like sister-in-laws and things like that, like they'll even tell you I didn't even hear her talk for the first year or two that I knew her. It's because I'm not good at it. It's why I'm good at talking to a camera, because nobody's here. And like, what if he's the same way and they're just jumping to conclusions and then also he might be a little blind. So am I. And sometimes in my head, I don't feel like I am insulting anybody. I'm just spitting facts. It turns out I'm probably insulting them, and that's me and Mr. Darcy. I feel like are on the same wavelength. But anyway, then after that whole thing, I feel like my opinion has really changed on Mr. Darcy, and honestly, I like him more than Elizabeth. There, I said it. I like him more than I like Elizabeth. Now, I still like Elizabeth's character, and it could be because I feel like a lot of side characters are getting a lot of focus on them and their relationships and their worries and their problems and their flirting and their where's Mr. Bingley and this, that, and the other. And Elizabeth is just, you know, there. And so maybe that's why, I don't know. But I still like her as a character, but I just feel like, maybe part 3, volume 3, whatever, maybe we'll figure that out. Because everybody else I feel like that we were dealing with, their stories, you know, like, except for Mr. Bingley. I don't know what the fuck's going on with that dude. And then Mr. Bennet, I feel like at the beginning of the story, I didn't really like him much. And it was because of the whole him lying to his wife to get her feathers in a ruffle. To get her even more, like, anxious and wound up and whatnot. Just to be like, actually, dear, I did go talk to him. Calm down. It just kind of, like, rubbed me the wrong way. I felt like it kind of was a form of abuse in a way. But then as I continued reading the story and getting to know how sarcastic he is and whatnot, maybe I read it in a tone a little harsher. Maybe if I go back, I don't know. But also I feel like I see his flaws. I see his flaws. He is not a good, perfect father / husband. I see it. I believe he sees it as well. I feel like Elizabeth sees it as well. And in my head, I'm picturing him as Red and then Mrs. Bennet as Kitty from that 70s show. Don't it? Don't it? Yeah, you know, that's the, like, especially even with their personalities, Miss Kitty is always like riled up and whatever, but she's hilarious. And then we have Red, who is a sarcastic motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And maybe not the best dad either. And he also plays is that 70s show inspired by Pride? No, it's not. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. I feel like also when I first started the book, like as I was reading volume 1, it definitely wasn't what I expected going into this book. I was expecting some really true hard-hitting romance novel, and I felt like we weren't even focusing on the 2 people that it was supposed to be about. We were focusing on everybody else. It kind of felt like a Bachelor show with all these men circling around Elizabeth and all this, that, and the other. You know, like, will you accept this rose? I mean, the amount of time, no. You know what I mean? And then, where was I going with this? Back in the early 1800s, was it common for people to stop by and take tours of other people's homes? Yes, in early 1800s, it was common for middle and upper class people to tour the grand country homes of the wealthy. I had to pull up the old Goog. Well, at least, you know, they have housekeepers. That's just, he's not even home, and they're just there touring his house. So Caroline was my most hated character in this book, but the torch has been passed, okay? It is no longer Caroline, though she's still a rusty, crusty little... But, Wickham, why you gotta... It's every time they start getting close, Wickham shows up. Wickham says shit. Wickham does stuff. Wickham is pissing me off. She began now to comprehend that he was exactly the man who, in disposition and talents, would most suit her. Girl, if you don't go find him... Boy, with the cousins already. Imagine saying to somebody, arguing with somebody about how your daughter needs to marry her cousin. Imagine. Pride and Prejudice, a story where a local man says one rude thing at a party, then spends the entire rest of the novel trying to fix his reputation. And then we all fall for him, essentially. I have officially finished Pride and Prejudice. And that is wild to say. So wild. Do you not realize how many years this book has set on my TBR? How many plans I have made to read this book, how many TBRs this book was put into that was never fulfilled. And now I can watch any adaptation and not have to worry about being spoiled to anything. I can understand the memes. There's some reels going around, at least I've seen them on Instagram, of these two boys. They're homeschooled, and I guess their mom was making them read the book out loud, and one of the boys was reading it with like a very heavy accent, and it's very funny. And the first time I saw the reels, like, it was funny, but like I had no idea what he was talking about or what he was saying. And then I was watching them earlier because they came across my feed again, and I knew exactly what scenes in the book he was reading from the book, and I knew exactly what was going on, and it just, like, I feel like I fit into the club, you know? The one thing that I really loved about this book is during these days, women looked at marriage more so as survival versus Elizabeth looked at marriage with love and respect. And that was pretty bold of her. And, you know, she conquered it. And it was great. And I will say one frustrating thing, but not like complaining or anything, but it would be like, okay, we would see Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth interact, and then at first, like, she was like, eh, and then he started like falling for her, and she like was starting to lean in a little bit, and then here comes somebody ruining everything. So then we jump into a whole different like situation. Mr. Darcy's gone for chapters, right? And then finally he comes back, and he's back into the story, and then something else happens, and he goes off again, and they're dealing with the whole nother thing, and then he finally comes back, and then something else is in the way, and it's just like, damn, quit cock blocking them. Yo, it's past my bedtime. It's past my bedtime. I really love this as well. I just loved following all the different people and the marriages and how each marriage was pretty different. You know, we had one couple was basically for security purposes. We had one couple that was just wild. If they were to get married today, they would probably get married in Vegas, you know what I mean? Then you had another couple that was just sweet and really meant to be, and, you know, little shy things. And then you had Elizabeth and Darcy, just the romantics at heart. I don't know. And then like Mr. Darcy, he was kind of put in his place a little bit, and instead of turning it around and being mean to Elizabeth, he learned and he changed and he grew, and I love that. And I love Mr. Darcy. He's it. He's it. Anyway, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm giving it 5 stars. I loved it. I love the family aspects. Yes, I would have loved to see more interaction between the two and like see more, like, I don't know, but also at the same time I did love seeing everything else and all the other family members, and I would have loved for this to have a sequel so we can see kind of where the other sisters go with their journeys in life. And also, yeah, like I want to see them have baby. I want like season 2. Where's season 2 at? So now that I'm done with Pride and Prejudice, what classic am I going to read next? I think it's going to be The Count of Monte Cristo. I know. I went from Wuthering Heights, which gave me the balls, to read Pride and Prejudice, which is hopefully going to give me the balls to read The Count of Monte Cristo. But I really want to not wait decades to watch the adaptation of that. Like the old adaptation, but also the new one that's coming out in the next month or so. I think it's a TV series. Girl, I don't know. I don't know. But here I am, reading classics. Okay, I'm gonna go to bed. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. Comment below and let me know what classic you think I should read next. Do you think I should read The Count of Monte Cristo? Let me know if you want me to vlog it. I don't know. Did you even enjoy this? I don't know.